Today we have Andrea Christenson, author Andrea Christenson, with us. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah,
thanks for talking to me.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is such an honor. I was so pleased to hear that you're going to be here and had an opportunity to do this with you. So.
Oh, this has been a dream come true for me.
Oh,
so,
good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's always such a huge question. It's like, I don't know. What will people like to hear? I'm married. We'll be married for 20 years in February, so I'm pretty pleased about
Congratulations.
that.
Thank
you. I have two beautiful daughters. Of course they're beautiful. I have to say they're beautiful. I'm on camera. No, they're beautiful. 15 years old and 13 years old.
Okay.
And we homeschool, not because of the pandemic. We've done it all along. It worked better for our schedule to have them at home, and so we just kept them home, and it's been lovely. We just recently moved to Minnesota. We lived in Wisconsin for 15 years before that, and so I'm still getting used to being a Minnesotan, but
You're from Wisconsin originally?
I'm originally from Wisconsin, and then went to college in Minnesota, so for about 4 years, and then after got married, we lived in Minnesota then again for a couple years before moving to Wisconsin again. So it's kind of back and forth over the border.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And I guess that's kind of a snapshot.
What made you want to get into writing?
Yeah, well, okay, so I grew up as an avid reader. Like, give me any book and I would devour it. One time at my tiny little library there in Wisconsin, I asked the librarian for War and Peace. And she said, well, you're only 7, and I think you're maybe not quite ready for that book yet, as she steered me correctly into the maybe, middle grade section. She's like, okay, I see you're a little bit more advanced than that. And so that growing up, reading so much, writers were always sort of my superhero. I don't need Superman or Wonder Woman or whatever. Give me an author, and I just would fangirl for days. And so who wouldn't want to join the ranks of a superhero, right? And so I dabbled in writing throughout my younger years and in my 20s and whatnot, but never really did anything with it, and never really, I never really thought about doing anything with it. I didn't go to school for it, anything like that. But it was always a dream of mine to be a published author, to see my name on the spine as I walk through the library or whatnot. And so about 10 years ago, I said, okay, time to get serious. Like, you're not going to be discovered just because you scribble on the backs of church bulletins or whatnot. And so then I really started training myself to write and to finish a project and whatnot. So it's been kind of an interesting journey, long journey, but a good one.
And who are some of the authors that you really, really loved when you were, looking up to them?
Right, yeah, so there's been several that have been an influence for me. I would say as I got older, Susan May Warren, ironically, was one that I really thought was just phenomenal. I also really enjoyed reading Julie Clausen. The sort of classic in my teenage years would be Jeanette Oki and some of those kinds of ones. I read wide, so it's not just one genre or another. It's as many as I can get my hands on. Yeah.
Nice. And so now you're writing under Susan May Warren's publishing company.
Yes. Yeah, it was such a phenomenal opportunity for me. Susan May Warren started a new publishing company with Lindsay Harrell, and they take new authors and launch them into a new career. And the way they do that is by pairing them with a mentor author, someone who's had success in the field and has a big platform. Platform's a big thing in the author world. And they pick people that have a similar voice to that mentor author and say, hey, if you loved Susan May Warren, you're going to love Andrea Christenson or whoever. And so I sent in an application for that program, and I was selected, and I just about fell over because I could not believe that this writing superhero of mine would want to work with me. Kind of makes me teary when I think about it. But yeah, so now she and I, and then there's 2 other gals in her group that are writing books together. So we've all written 2, so it's a total of 6, and then all of us are writing another one. So there'll be a total of 9 in that collection. So.
Okay, and so then what kind of books are they?
Sure, yeah. They're contemporary romance, so they're in with a Christian spin, of course. So with a little bit of danger, but they wouldn't be, a suspense or epic romance or whatnot. But yeah, so set on the North Shore of Lake Superior. Okay. So yeah.
What does it mean to you to be able to put your faith into your writing?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I used to wonder if I had to write sort of a salvation story for every book, and I learned that I didn't need to do that, but what I did need to do for personal integrity and as a ministry is to tell biblical truths in an engaging way. And it's such a blessing to me to be able to share with people who I would never, there's so many people that have read my book that I would never be able to speak to in a personal way, but that they're able to hear some truth about God or about their own life that hopefully makes a difference. And of course, not preachy. It's wonderful to be able to do it in a fictional way so that it's approachable and it's more relatable, I think, sometimes than sorry, all pastors everywhere, but sometimes more relatable than a sermon. Sure. So, yeah.
Yep, sometimes just, hearing about Jesus, but yes, like you say, right. It's relatable and...
Yeah.
No, I like that. That's great. So how was your writing process when you're coming up with or me not coming up with the story, but
mm-hmm.
Do you have a certain spot that you read? Do you eat snacks when you read?
Sure.
Right. I'm sorry. Right,
yep,
not read.
Yep. Well, I'm turning into a plotter, which means I lay out what I want to say in advance. I used to be more of a pantser, where you just sort of write by the seat of your pants and just do whatever you wanted, wherever your heart led you. But I find that about halfway through a story, then that sort of is like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. So I'd have to have access to my plot papers, and so I generally spread out a little bit more. I have kind of 3 main places that I write, and one of them is we have a little loft area in our house with a desk and a window, and it's very, if I want to stay really focused on what I'm doing, get a lot of words on the page, that's where I go, because I can look out the window, but really there's not a lot of distraction, and it's at a desk, so I feel like I'm working. And then if I want to just be more thinky about what I'm doing, or I need to kind of ruminate, then I sit in, it's actually my husband's chair, but I commandeer it once in a while for writing, and so it's an easy chair that I'll write in if I want to go a little slower. And then if I absolutely have to have 0 distractions, we live on a Bible college campus, and so I'll just go to the library at the Bible college there, and I'll write just in my own study carrel, and nobody can bother me, and so those are my 3 main places. Of course, before the pandemic, I would also write at Caribou, but now we're slowly getting back into being able to do that. But.
Sure. And do you ever actually write, or is it all typing?
Mostly it's typing. I do some things by hand, or I'll jot myself a note or something like that. When I was younger, I did a lot of hand stuff, but I think in order to self-edit and some of those things, it's just a little easier to do it electronically, and I can type a lot faster than I can write, and so my brain is able to translate it to the page a little quicker that way. Sure. Yeah. Okay. And as far as snacks, you asked me about snacks. Coffee and chocolate are essential to me, and so I've always got. I don't like too much. My husband sometimes says, "Oh, here's a bag of chips for while you write." That doesn't work for me because there's too much greasiness and whatnot. So maybe an M&M here and there, or a little reward.
Ask, what kind of chocolate? Because when I eat chocolate, it does get on my finger.
Right. Yeah. So you got to do M&Ms, or you got to set yourself a goal, and then when you're done, then sometimes I'll do the little the tiny fun-size dark Milky Ways. Those are great. Those are a good reward for chapter well done.
Very nice. I've been, my favorite chocolate recently has been, they're not fun size, but it's like the Cadbury bar, like the solid milk chocolate.
Those are delicious.
I'm like, oh, where have you been all my life?
Right.
I know you've been around.
So
how have I not?
Smooth and delicious. Oh, yeah. Right, for sure.
So now, how do you come up with your characters' names?
That's a good question. I've noticed that I've changed as I've gotten older too, because when you're young. So when I'm writing when I was 15, it was all the like super flowery names and like, oh, it would be such and such, and it was one a character that I named Cedric Shanning, and I just thought that sounded so romantic, Cedric Shanning. And then I'm like, who names people that? Nobody's named that. So now it just, I'll borrow from life. So some of my characters are named after people I know, or usually I don't try to pair their last name and first name together because I don't want them to think it's about them exactly. Sure. It's just like, oh, I like your name. Can I use it in a book kind of thing? And then I'll look at like billboards when you go past and you see like a realtor or whoever, Mark Smith or whatever. I think, oh yeah, that name really works. So it's kind of, and then I'll workshop it with my family. I'll be like, okay, we need a name for a guy who does this, and he looks like this. And my daughters and my husband are very good at coming up with names in those circumstances.
I think that'd be fun.
Yeah. One road trip, I was like, okay, guys, I've got 10 names. Let's fill them out. And so it took us about an hour, but we were able to hammer out some really good names. Nice.
When I went to a junior college, my first 2 years of college for radio.
Okay.
And so, most DJs have a different name.
Sure, yeah.
So mine was Carly Davis.
Oh, I love it. That is a very good DJ name. I like it. Very good. How did you come up with it?
I think because there was a Carly on Days of Our Lives back in the late 90s. Mid-90s.
Yep.
Dating myself a little bit. And I don't know where the Davis came from. I think I like just how it sounded.
Well, it would sound good over the air, I would imagine. Yeah.
I think so. And unfortunately, I didn't go with the DJ route. I went the television route. But yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I've always wondered how people come up with names. So
I've heard some people go to the cemetery and borrow names off of headstones because they're like, well, real people were named this, so it kind of works. Like, it seems a little creepy, but it's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of names available.
Yes,
in one place.
Exactly.
Yes. So now you have more books coming out?
Yeah, so I had the one was launched in March, middle of March, and then my second one will be the middle of September. I'm super excited about that.
And what is it about again?
So it's a contemporary romance. So the first one was called Can't Buy Me Love, and it was about...
It's one of my favorite movies.
Oh, well, there you go. It was nothing like that. Well, actually, I don't know. I've never watched the movie, so I wouldn't know.
It's an 80s movie. It's old.
Okay, sure. That one's a little bit of a Cinderella story. It's got kind of Cinderella themes.
Oh, I like that.
But modern day, a rich guy goes up to Deep Haven, which is on the North Shore, and wants to kind of change some things, and then so his name's Adrian, and then Ella lives in the North Shore, and she doesn't want him coming in and changing her town, and so sparks fly and whatnot. So that's a good one. And then they both have to wrestle with the thought of like am I enough? Am I worthy in God's eyes? They both have kind of some daddy issues, if you will, and so they struggle with knowing God as a father. And so the more serious notes are about them learning that God loves them for who they are, and they don't have to be one thing or another in order to be loved by God. And then the one coming now here in September is called Hanging by a Moment. And it's also set in Deep Haven, and it's Colleen and Jack, and they are flight nurses on a medical helicopter in Deep Haven, and so they have to figure out, are they ready to serve in these life and death environment, and what do they want out of their life. And for Colleen, she's coming back home after having been in Minneapolis for many years, and she's like, do I really want to come back to this small town life? And Jack is trying to hide out and not get involved with anything because he had some bad experiences, and so drawing him out then into a relationship with people in general, and then of course Colleen in specific. So
Sure.
yeah, and then there'll be a third one, but that one we have to wait a little while for. That one won't be out until 2023. So
Yeah, that is a long time.
I'm told it's normal in the publishing world, but it feels long to me.
Sure.
So.
And so is that already written?
It's in the process.
Okay.
So, yep, I am about a third of the way through with just sort of a messy first draft, and then hope to be finished by the end of the year with that one, and then it'll go through editing and re-editing and
Sure.
until it's ready to go. So, yeah.
Super. Well, I'm excited for you, and I'm glad you got the chance to get your creativity out, and I look forward to reading those.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us, and again, thank you for pursuing, something that you had a passion for and a dream to do. So.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for this opportunity to chat. I've loved having this conversation with you.
Same for me. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.